Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look at something a little different on the channel, and it is going to be a game called Labyrinth Adventures, which is a DM-less solo RPG game. You heard that right. No DM required. You can play this solitaire, or you can play it cooperatively with up to 4 players. And it's a pretty straightforward, old school style RPG where, yes, you're going to need graph paper, a bunch of dice, and you will do a lot of dice rolling in this game to generate not only the pathway through the dungeon, but then what you'll be facing, what you'll be finding, and things like that. There is an adventure that also comes with the game that you can get. Enter the Labyrinth. That is the first quest that you can do, or you can create your own. So all you need is this book right here. You can make your own, or you can follow along with the design quest that designer Chris Zimmerman has done. This is going to be heading out to Kickstarter here pretty soon. So I'm going to give you a overview of the game and then talk about my thoughts after playing it a few times so you can get an idea as to whether this is a good fit or not for you. And once we get inside, we have the table of contents, which is going to list out all the aspects of the game in order for you: creating a character, mapping, combat, spells, level completion power-ups, leveling up the beasts, rewards and perils, and the Beastopedia. Start off with creating your character. You'll name it whatever you want to name. Then you will roll up for strength, dexterity, and your hit points. That is all going to be done with either 3d6 or 4d6. If you roll 4d6, you take the 3 highest dice. If you roll only 3d6, you take the total of the 3d6 and you add 1 to the total at the end. You want to make sure that your strength and dexterity together are at least 27 or above. If they're below 27, they tell you to re-roll, because you don't want to go out there with a really weak character, because being a randomly generated dungeon by die rolling, you don't know what is going to await you outside that first door you go through. You can go out there and have a long walk and run into very little or nothing for a while. Or you can run right into a death dealer, a couple dragons, things like that, and it can spell doom for you right out of the gate. Yes, you will die quickly in this game. You can resurrect. You can also just start over, things like that. But that's just something to keep in mind, because this is not a structured scenario. This is a randomly generated scenario generator. You're going to run into things like that are going to happen if the dice don't work in your favor, which, trust me, I know. It's happened to me. So then we get to the Mod X, which is your modified dexterity. Strength and dexterity are standard as they are in all RPGs. Mod X is what you're going to be rolling in combat. So if your dexterity is, say, 13 and you have armor on, and that has a -1 Mod X, that is going to take your 13 down to 12. So that means you need to roll 12 or less in combat to hit. This is something to keep in mind, because, yeah, you're going to armor up, and you're going to want to armor up, obviously, to soak off damage. However, you are going to have to weigh that risk versus reward as far as how much armor do you want to have on versus how much, or how low, I should say, you want to have your to-hit number. So that's something to keep in mind and play around with. It depends on your class, too. Then you have character races. There are 3 different races. You roll a 1d6 to determine what they are. 1 to 2 is human, 3 to 4 is elf, and 5 to 6 is dwarf. And they each will have benefits. Like, for example, a human may add 1 point to either the strength total by subtracting 1 point from their dex total, or vice versa. And up to 2 points of adjustment are allowed. An elf receives -1 strength and +1 dex to their character attributes. Elves gain a -1 attack roll bonus when using a damage-causing spell or scroll. They also perform 1 extra damage with the following weapons: one-handed or two-handed swords and bows. Dwarves, they receive a +1 strength and -1 dex to their character attributes. Dwarves perform an extra 1 damage per 1d6 and suffer a +1 attack roll penalty when using a damage-causing spell or scroll. Dwarves gain a -1 attack roll bonus with the following weapons: one-handed or two-handed axes and one-handed or two-handed maces. So you can see how all of these will play into the different races. Then we have the classes. You got your standard tank, your warrior, wizard, rogue, and your cleric. And they're going to also have different advantages and disadvantages. There's your character sheets, which are provided for you in the book. You can either make copies of them, or you can go to the Labyrinth Adventures website and download the sheets, which I have here. because I've played a couple of adventures with my party, including the Whiskey Charlie crew, as you may have noticed there. Then we have the attribute modifier tables, which are going to tell you what your strength, your max weight, your breakdown locked door bonus is, if any, modified dexterity, turn modifier, and then the pick locked door, which is for the rogue. Then we get into your mapping. Then we have the mapping key. It's going to tell you how you're going to draw out all your maps using graph paper or the pre-supplied maps that are either in the module, or you can download the sheets themselves directly from the website, where it's going to pre-plot your start points, your treasure troves, and then your objective. And this way you can very easily just put that down and start running through your adventure. You're going to roll 2d6, and that's going to tell you your passage. So as you go through, you roll 2d6, and it's going to tell you you're going to start, say we're starting here, roll 2d6, and you roll a 7. That's going to tell you the passage goes straight. And you're going to go 1 straight. You roll again, maybe you go straight again, maybe you turn left or right, then you'll start turning left, right. You'll start building out your passage that way. Then you get to a door. It'll tell you here, unlocked door or locked door. Once you get to a locked door or an unlocked door, as you can see here, the locked door is a dark square. The unlocked is the undarkened square. When you get to that door, just like you have here at the start, this is an unlocked door. Once you get into you find a room, you go into the room, you're going to first roll to see if you have a trap, then you're going to deal with that. And then you're going to decide the room size. Roll 2d6, and that's going to tell you the number of squares used when drawing your room. Now there is a limitation to that. The maximum, obviously, for 2d6 is going to be 12. It can only be 4 by 3. You can't just run 12 squares out and create like this long passageway down to a treasure trove or to the objective, things like that. You've got to actually build out a 4 by 3 room. Then you're going to determine the exit doors, and that's important because you want to try to always make sure that you are leading a passageway open towards one of the treasure troves or towards your objective. You don't want to have them going away, because then you're going to have to come all the way back around to wherever you're headed to. Then you have the room occupancy, and you roll your 2d6. And it's going to tell you either you roll on the treasure table, it might be empty, or you're going to roll on a beast table, or maybe the roll on the beast and the treasure table. Or maybe you're going to roll twice. So you may end up with a pretty busy room, and that's where you're going to roll to your beast tables for and your treasure tables, which we'll take a look at later. And then it walks you through all these things, your passages, your traps, then you have your trap table. This is what we were looking at on the other page. And it walks you through all the steps for how to deal with traps and any damage that you run into with those. Unlocked door, locked door, whether you can break it, pick it, use magic, or use a key for locked doors. And then it gives you explanation about locked doors, and then exit doors, room occupancy. And then it tells you as you map, you may find that you fill out your map, there might not be enough open squares to complete the dimensions of the room, or perhaps you don't have enough open wall space left to draw all of the doors you rolled. Perfectly fine. Simply utilize all you can to your advantage, because more rooms and doors means more opportunity for gold and other treasures. Then you can travel off map. Sometimes you may just end up all the way on one side or the other where you can't go any further because you're running out of grids. Well, guess what? They have an extended travel map that you can also download from the website, and that you can use. You can just match it up to the side that you're traveling from and continue on. But the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go too far out here, because you're going to need to make it all the way back here for your objective. So if you go off on the right hand side here and then you continue on over here, well, all you're doing over here is running into, you can grind it out. You can get more gold and experience and things like that by taking on the different beasts, but you're moving yourself further and further away from your objective, and that's the point of the quest, is to complete your objectives. It also increases your likelihood of running into something bad and you dying, and that's something you don't want to do. So you want to really make sure you do hit these treasure troves. They're valuable, but at the same time, don't go too far away from your objective. You want to make sure that you stay on point and you don't go too far away. And as it says here about locked doors, it says locked doors become more difficult to break down or pick as levels progress. As you level up, everything becomes more difficult, as you'd expect. There's the example of the extended travel map, and then we get into combat. Combat is going to be pretty simple and straightforward as well. You establish your attack order, and that's going to be based on your mod X, which is going to be, as I said, your modified dexterity. Your faster people are going to go first, but you're going to fill it out from 4 through 1. So generally my tank, my warrior, ends up last almost all the time because they're big and strong, but they're not the most nimble on their feet. So they end up number 4, and then the rogue or the wizard or someone will be number 1. They're going to go first in the combat, which is actually good because you want to have your wizard up there if you can. He can cast a spell, maybe freeze up the enemy or blind them, whatever. Then you can have everybody else attack. Then you will determine your initiative. Initiative is going to be rolling your 1d6, and what you're going to do is determine the initiative for the beast. On a roll of 5 or 6, the beast goes first. On a roll of 1, the beast will go last. Because remember, we're starting at 4. So we go 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 is going to be your slowest. 4 is going to be your fastest. So 5 or 6 would mean that the beast goes first. And then number 1 would mean that it goes last. And the reason it goes last is because any number that it ends up tied with the player, it ends up the loser. So if you roll and you roll a 3, your number 4, your number 3 character in order is going to go, and then the beast is going to go, then 2 and 1 are going to go. And then you have your attack order protocol, which we just talked about. The cool thing about combat is you just don't stumble into a room and get attacked. You're going to go in there, and your first thing you're going to get to do is ready. You only get 1 action per turn, but this is a free action. So you'll ready, which means that you can get any weapon you need ready, scrolls, spells, whatever. Anything you need to get ready, you can ready, then you begin combat. And combat continues on until one side or the other is dead. Either the beasts are dead or you are dead. Then you're going to determine who gets targeted by beast attacks, and this is done by a 1d6 roll. There are some beasts that will attack certain classes, like dragons will go after warriors, and undead prefer to go after clerics. But generally, everyone is going to get a random attack. It doesn't matter. You'll definitely spread the pain around. Then once the beast is dead, you get 1d6 of gold points, and that's divided amongst your party, or it can be kept by whoever slayed the beast. Then you have all these other steps for attacking for your party members. Now, one of the other things that's cool is on a roll of 5 or less, because remember, mod X is what you're rolling against. So if your mod X is 12, you roll an 11, you hit. If you roll a 13, you miss. It's pretty straightforward. If you roll a 5 or less, then you go to the critical hit table, and this is where you can really inflict a lot of damage, and this is what you really definitely want to roll when you're taking on the boss in the adventure itself, because this is where you can put out a lot of damage. Then we have other steps here that explain to you freeing and filling your hands during combat. Remember, you get 1 action. If you need to drop something or pick something up, that is going to be an action. So if you roll an 18, it's a 3d6 on the combat to roll your mod X. If you roll an 18, you're going to drop your weapon. Guess what? You need to spend the next action to pick that weapon back up. So that's one of those things where you're going to find out why lanyards are attached to weapons. Then you have runaway, standing down, room completion explained to you. Then we get into spells, and this is for the wizards. Blindness, conjure beasts, which is kind of cool. You can roll your 1d6 and determine what you're going to get conjured in the room. You're going to get skeleton, ghost, plague, black slime, 1d2 troll, or dragons. You can create door. This is something that I love to have for the wizards because, like I was saying before, you're going to get your exits that are going to be rolled up for each of the rooms. One of the worst things to do would be to be close to your objective or a treasure trove or whatever, and you don't have a doorway that's going to lead you this way. So guess what? Create door, because you may end up in a room that has no doors. Explosion, that's another good one too. Blast of spontaneous combustion causes 3d6 damage to all beasts in the room. On an attack of 18, the spellcaster takes half damage rounded up. So again, when you roll the 18, it blows back on you. Hailstorm's another fun one. Duration, 1d6 rounds. So if you roll 1d6, and maybe you roll a 6, that's 6 rounds of combat that this is going to be taking place in. You roll 1d6 to see how fierce the storm is, and that tells you how many d6 that you'll roll for the combined damage for each round. Then 1d6 is rolled to see how many rounds the storm will last. Additional hailstorm damage will be rolled at the start of each continuing combat round before any attacks are performed by the beast or party members. On an attack roll of 18, the spellcaster becomes frozen in ice and cannot perform any turns until room completion. So another not so good one. But you got a few others over here. Speed, Unleash Fury, Shield, Rot, Web. Then we get to cleric spells, because clerics can also cast spells. Banish, Cure, Dispel Undead, Electric Storm, Flash of Light, Heal, Hold, Holy Water, Mana Transfer. One thing I did not mention before, I forgot to mention here with the wizard spells, is you're going to always have Fireball as one of the spells that you're going to have. Basically, Magic Missile. That's always going to be there. It's limitless. You never run out. So you'll always have something as the wizard to attack with. For the cleric, going back to the cleric here, you're going to have Heal and Banish, which are going to be a couple of spells that you're going to have, but they're going to be limited. Heal, duration is permanent. This spell reduces 1d6 damage to one party member one time per casting, and Banish is one turn. Spell causes 3d6 automatic damage upon one undead beast. You're going to get 5 of each of those, and that will regenerate at the end of a level, but that is 2 that you're going to get automatically, plus you get a certain amount. I think you get 12 for the wizard, if I remember correctly, and 8 for the cleric, which will be chosen before you start your adventure. Then we have level completion and power-ups. This is going to explain to you how to basically level up and gain bonuses with your power-ups, and it's going to have the different breakdowns for all of them here for the warrior, the wizard, the rogue. It's going to tell you what you can pay for and the benefits you'll gain from it. Then you have leveling up for your beasts, and then rewards and perils. Remember before I said you're going to be rolling on tables a lot in this game because you're going to be rolling to see how far along the dungeon you go, and then the size of the room, things like that. Well, when you get in a room, if you have to roll on a table, you'll roll on the treasure table. It's a 1d6. You roll that. That tells you whether you're rolling a weapons table, armor table, potion, scroll, loot, or if you get to roll twice. And then from there, you will go in and select what weapons or loot or whatever it is you get. So you're rolling a weapons table, for example. It's a 1d6. You roll a 1, you get 1d6 worth of daggers. You roll a 3, you get an axe. A 5, you get a bow, and a 6, you get a wand. And then the About Wands is going to allow you to get different charges for those wands. Conjure Beast, Hailstorm, Paralysis, Blindness, Rot, or Web, based on a 1d6 roll. Then you have the armor table, same thing. You're going to roll your 1d6 and see what you get. Potion table, going to roll 2d6. Scroll table, 2d6, and then loot, 1d6. You may get some keys, food, gold points, things like that. Then the magic items table. All the pretty cool drawings in here as well. Your orbit protection. Then you get to your beast table. And this is when you get into a room and it tells you to roll on the beast table. You roll a 1d6. It tells you which table to go to. Table 1, 2, 3, or 4. So you roll a 2, you go to table 2. You roll a 4, you get 1d2 Minotaur. So that's going to be a tough one to beat. You end up on table 4. You may get out there the first time you roll. Remember I was saying before, you may get out there in your first room and it tells you to roll. So you roll a 6. Oh yeah, great. I got a 6. This is awesome because 6 is always great, right? Well, guess what? I roll a 6 again on table 4 and I end up with a death dealer. That's just not good. And yes, it has happened. Then in the Beastopedia, this is going to give you a breakdown of all the different bad guys that you're going to be taking on. Black Dragon, Black Slime, Dire Wolf, Giant, Scorpion. It's going to give you your hit points, your dexterity, anything that's specific to that creature. Like, for example, before I was saying how you have the warrior class will be attacked by dragons and the clerics will be attacked by the undead. That is really only on a die roll of 1 through 3, because remember, you roll your 1d6 and that determines who gets attacked. On a die roll of 1 through 3 for a dragon, that means that the warrior will be attacked, and for the undead, it means that a cleric will be attacked. And then we have the breakdown of the dragons here. You get a 2-headed dragon, and then it tells you here about dragons. All dragons consider the warrior as their common enemy. So you roll a 1 through 3, that's what you're going to get. And then each one has a breakdown of the different goodies that you're going to get. You take on a green dragon, you get 2d6 gold, and then some other magic items, things like that. For a red dragon, you get 46 of gold, 4 treasure table rolls, and 1 magic items table roll. So that's pretty awesome. Even better, two-headed dragon. You get 10 d6 gold points, 5 treasure table rolls, and 2 magic item table rolls. So yeah, you know it's going to be tough to take them out if you are getting that much good stuff. Then we have the undead, and this is where I said that we'll attack the clerics first on a 1 through 3, and that gets all the way through to the end of the Beastopedia. And then we have, as I said, the module itself, the first module in this series. And this is going to start off with a pretty neat 9-page story. So definitely fun to read. And if you're doing it with a group, you can read it out loud, narrate it, and set the tone, set the stage for everybody. And then you get to the beginning of starting level 1, which we've already looked at. That sheet that I printed out, this is the same here in the book. And remember, I talked about those treasure troves. Well, up here it tells you what's in the treasure troves. Should you travel upon a T icon, each trove contains the following: 50 gold points, 2 weapon table rolls, 2 armor table rolls, 1d6 potion table rolls, 1d6 scroll table rolls. Then it tells you how to handle the mapping of that. But yeah, you've got 4 of those out there, and you get a decent amount of gold. Then you get a couple of weapons and armor, table rolls, potion, and scrolls. So yeah, you definitely want to hit those treasure troves before you move on to the objective. Objective here is just to get to the stairs here. That's going to take you to objective 2, or the second level. And this is where you're going to go after the big bad guy here in this. And that is Madorn, which we're not going to look too closely at his stuff. And then there's some blank pages there. But that's really all there is with these adventures. They're basically frameworks. It's not too deeply involved because you're going to be generating the dungeon and generating the beasts that you're going to be taking on when you are running through this map. So everything is pretty straightforward. And for my party, I've been using all 4 characters here, just playing it solitaire, because like I said, it's a solitaire game. You can play all 4 characters yourself, or you can play cooperatively where everybody gets assigned a character. And being that I have the other 3 assigned from each member of Whiskey Charlie, the 4th one is the cleric, and that is Clara the cleric, because I know I'm clever like that. The wizard is Kev the Notorious. He is a human wizard. Then we have the elf rogue, which is Nate the Nimble. And then there's the human warrior, which is me, because he's a tank and I'm a tanker. So I just figured this was just too perfect. So that's what I've been going with. Plus, it suits my playstyle. Just get right in the room and start swinging, get right into the brawl. But overall, I think everything that you get with the game, you have these provided to you on the website where you can download level 1 and 2, the extended maps as well. I have 2 copies of that level 1 there. All these are provided to you. You can also photocopy them out of the book. Really simple, really straightforward. Again, this is very old school feel. It reminds me of when I first started playing D&D back in the day, because it was all on graph paper and in your head. The narrative was just created by the descriptions given to you by the DM, and then also by your fellow adventurers. As you're playing, you would be interacting, doing your role play, and then you would just kind of fill out the details of the room you're in. The DM would tell you what type of room, but then you would notice different things about the room that you would add in just off the cuff, improv, to create a more vivid picture in your mind. And I think that was really cool about that. And you can do the same here, or you can just, run through it as just roll dice. What do I have here? Do I advance 1 square, or do I go into a room? When I get in the room, what am I taking on? And you can just kind of grind through it that way if you want to. It all depends on how you want to play. But either way, this creates a fun narrative framework for you to build on yourself, however you want to do it, whether solitaire or cooperatively. One of the things that I didn't like about the game, and it's not a negative per se, but it's something that I would like to see kind of improved, and that is the amount of page flipping that goes on especially when you're first playing the game. You're going to be looking back and forth at different things. Like I said before, you're going to be rolling on tables. So you'll flip to that page, and then you go back, and then you flip to the other page. And it did get a little, especially when I first got the game and I was playing it, it got a little tiresome looking for what page was that on, and, and then flipping back and forth. Once I got used to it, it became more second nature. But I think that's something that can be improved upon by having player aids with the game, and being that this is going to be on Kickstarter. Hopefully that is something that Chris will look at as a potential add-on, either an add-on or a stretch goal. You can break down those tables and create it a fold-out, just like you have a DM screen. Well, you can have a DM screen for this, for your solitaire experience, that gives you all the necessary tables for easier looking up. And this way you can just keep the adventure moving forward rather than pausing and then looking through the rules for, hey, what's that table and what does that do and what does this do? All those things can be broken down into player aids and expedite gameplay, I think, quite a bit. Like I said, I found that a little bit annoying, but it was not a game breaker at all for me. But again, very old school feel. I love the fact that now I can either download these or I can get a book of graph paper and put it to good use again here with this game. I like this system a lot. It was a lot of fun. It really did give me that old nostalgic feel. I felt like I was transported back to being like 10, 12 years old, playing D&D and just being immersed in the story. And this gives that similar feel for me. And it's one of those games that, this may sound a little funny, but it's a relaxing game because I'm sitting down, I'm generating this random dungeon as I go. And yeah, there's tension. Don't get me wrong. When you get into a room and you see, oh wow, got to take on this or that, that's bad news when you're trying to figure out, how's my crew going to take care of this? But as you generate the dungeon and you move along, it's very relaxing because you're just drawing out these grid squares. And there is something really cool about doing that it's kind of almost Zen-like, I think. And I really dug it quite a bit. And again, this is something that doesn't use a lot of space. All you got to do is be able to carry this with you. So you can take these books with you and go on the road, go on vacation, whatever. You can either bring your dice or you can get a die roller on your phone. So it's not going to use a lot of space. The one thing you will definitely need is extra paper, scratch paper of some sort, because you will be taking notes as far as what's in each room, especially when you get those double die rolls where you're going to have, okay, you have a monster, you have to roll on a beast table, and then you also have a treasure table roll or whatever, an armor table roll. So you're going to need to make sure, if you're rolling that twice, what beasts are there, what treasure tables you rolled, so that way you can keep track of what is actually in that room. Upon room completion, you know what you can get from the treasure table and then also what you can get from the beast itself. I also like the fact that there's not a lot of extra chrome. It's a pretty stripped down system. It's really just the necessities, but there is a little meat in there to keep it interesting and to have a unique feel to it each time. The rule book is all you need. You can create your own scenarios from there or adapt scenarios that you may have had from other RPGs. This quest book, this will give you an additional adventure, and I believe there are more on the way to give you more adventures as well. The other thing that is great about these quests themselves as well as the book is this really has very high replay value because of the simple fact that you are randomly generating your dungeon each and every time. It's always going to have a different shape. It's always going to have a different look. And what you're going to be taking on is always going to be different. Unless you have really bad die rolls consistently. I'm one of those guys that has bad die rolls consistently. So yeah, I've run into some bad luck at times, but I've also had some really good rolls. It all balances out in the end, but I think overall it was a really good time playing this game. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I look forward to seeing what other modules can be created, and then also looking forward to see what the community does with their creativity as far as making their own scenarios or adapting others that they've played with homebrews or whatever. But this is a pretty neat game, and if you like that old school, generate your own narrative feel for an RPG, and especially if you play solitaire or play cooperatively with one or two other people, three other people, definitely check out Labyrinth Adventures. And yes, you can play this with kids because this is going to be a game that, again, randomly generated. It's not going to be difficult for them to understand, and you can kind of guide it in a way. If you are rolling and you're playing with little kids, you don't want to have a death dealer come out at you first thing, so you just scrap that and you re-roll it, things like that. This gives you the power to do it as you see fit to play your game your way. So if you're looking for an old school style RPG, definitely check out Labyrinth Adventures when it gets on Kickstarter here pretty soon. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.